Hola, my name is Maria Montes, and my presentation today is called Good Shit Takes Time, which is something rare in the times we are living. During the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about 3 personal projects I have been working on for a very long time. As a disclaimer, I must say that there will be a lot of explicit language on my slides, and I will explain why during the presentation. So let's do that. More than a decade ago, I moved to Melbourne. I'm in love with letter forms, so it's not surprise. One of the first things I did in the city was actually signing up for a typographic tour where I met Adam and his sister. I was new in town, didn't have any friends or family, but I was determined to find a job as a typographer. But instead, I found a job as a textile designer, which led me to illustrate more than 432 designs in 2 years. At the beginning of 2014, I started my independent career designing for the fashion and the luxury market, teaching calligraphy as well as textile design, and creating my own artworks, combining my passion for illustration and letter forms. At the beginning of 2015, I was approached by a cocktail venue in Melbourne who offered me to host my first solo exhibition. After the opening of my solo show, I felt stuck and didn't know how to keep pushing my career. So I emailed Adam and asked him for advice. I remember him telling me, don't show me your work and don't show me your website, but instead tell me, why do you do what you do? At the end of our 2 hours together, Adam strongly suggested to start writing about my work. My very first email newsletter was exclusively focused on announcing my solo show, but thanks to Adam's advice, I decided to keep writing and sending email newsletters, sharing my courses and experiences that were inspiring me at each time. Now, 3 years ago, I had a melanoma removed from my face, and I shared the experience and how I felt before and after the surgery. The amount of responses I received from people sharing their experiences with cancer were incredibly touching. I have been now writing for over 7 years, and my writing has taught me a lot of things. By my accent, you can tell that English is not my first language, but writing has made me accountable, has helped me to reflect on my journey and all the things that I have been accomplishing. My newsletters have also helped me to be vulnerable, and they have made me a lot more articulate. So thank you very much, Adam, for that coffee many, many years ago. Now, at the beginning of 2016, I started a personal project called the Shit Series. This project kick-started by my fascination with language and all the colloquial ways Australian people use the word shit. I started to write a list and told all my friends I was working on this project. This shitty list built up very quickly, and I decided to use these colloquialisms in a biographical way, explaining situations and feelings I was having at each time. The Shit series have taught me a lot of Australian slang, and after 2 years, I finally completed this project, having created 100 personal posts. Now, for my solo show in Melbourne, I designed a series of illustrated cocktail artworks, including a French one called Absinthe. The lettering Absinthe got stuck on my mind, and a year later, I went back to it and drew the rest of the 26 letters of the uppercase alphabet. And this is the beginning of my third and last story for today. At the beginning of 2017, a typographic publication based in Germany emailed me, inviting me to be part of their special golden edition type calendar, featuring my Green Fairy font. And of course, I said yes. Now, at that point, I had only designed A to Z in capital letters. The date for my page on the calendar was going to be Wednesday, the 5th of December. Now, as you can tell, I did not have designed any numbers. So I had to start really quickly to design number 5 straight away. And as you can imagine as well, it took me a lot longer than I imagined. So I submitted my page 2 days after the deadline. Typodarium said, oh, sorry, Maria, we thought you couldn't meet the deadline, so we gave your date to another designer. But they also said, but we really want to feature Green Fairy font. So your new date is now April 12th. Well, as you can imagine, sweat was coming down my back because I did not have number 1 and number 2 design. And just the idea of having to rush again with another tight deadline of numbers that didn't exist up to now was not an option. So I convinced them I couldn't invest more time working on the page layout, and luckily they agreed to proceed with my original date. I asked Typodarium, when is the calendar going to be printed and distributed? And they said at the end of 2017. So that was it for me. Really, that was it. I set myself a deadline of 11 months to turn 27 drawings into a fully functioning font file with more than 600 glyphs. Now, Green Fairy started being one white, but quickly turned into a multi-layer font. Things were going more or less okay, till I arrived to the dots white. I started drawing squares following a grid. Then the squares turned into diamonds. Then the grid wasn't working so well on the round letters. So I tried to randomize the position of the dots, but it didn't work. So I went back to the grid, and this time I scaled down the position of the diamond shapes, creating a half tone effect. I spent many hours drawing, redrawing, adjusting, readjusting, tweaking and retweaking, and then the diacritics came on board, and then symbols, currencies, and then the numbers, kerning. After 9 months full-time and many crises later, I could confidently share that my Green Fairy font was coming to life as a font family highly ornamented for display purposes. This means that every layer or style is stacked on top of each other to create multiple chromatic styles. Green Fairy has 4 chromatic whites: the outline, the dots, the stencil, and the full, and has also 3 combined whites for all these occasions where you only need to use one color in your font. In September 2017, I felt pretty good. You know, the calendar was going to be distributed at the end of the year. So I had 3 months to find a font distributor. So I compiled all my work and sent an email to one of the biggest font foundries, asking them to publish my work. Now, the font distributor took 2 months to get back to me. And on that email in November, told me, thanks for your submission, Maria. We will need a minimum of 2 more months to consider whether we want to publish your font or not. Well, at this time, I lost all my hopes on releasing the font before the end of 2017 and before the calendar was going to be sold and distributed. Now, in March 2018, which is 6 months after my submission email to the font distributor, they finally grant me as a font foundry. And recently, my Green Fairy font has turned 3 years old. Now, to conclude with this presentation, I want to add something else that I think is very important following today's topic. So, talking about this font, I have to mention that up to date, I have only found another woman who has published a font in Australia commercially. Only one other Australian woman. Now, to close and to reflect on what can you do in the next 10, I'm going to share some things I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm extremely passionate about the power of representation. And I have recently written about finding your inner campus. I know today we have a few brand and marketing managers in this event, and I would like to invite you to reflect with me in a few very important questions of what to do with the next 10 years. So here we come. What is the reason why you are designing? What are the impacts of your work? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind in this visual culture? What responsibilities do we in the design sector have? I'm a privileged person who live in a very fortunate island where more than the 28% of us were born overseas in more than 200 countries, where a quarter of the population speak more than 260 languages other than English, and where over 50% of Australians follow more than 130 different faiths. And in this context, as a designer, as an artist, as an educator, I feel the responsibility of spreading this message across by celebrating cultural diversity, supporting women in the industry, highlighting the importance of gender equality and inclusion, and by making sure that we all understand that by bringing more voices, colors, and underrepresented groups up on the stage can only make us have a better view of the world and actually can make us better. I believe that my purpose in life is passing knowledge, create emotion through my work, and helping others to question our social structures and to believe in themselves. I also believe that some great things take a huge amount of time. Happy 10th anniversary Intentional. It's a truly remarkable achievement, and I'm really proud to be a small part of it. Much love to all of you, and thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Maria. Brilliant work there. Incredible stuff. And yeah, really inspiring.